Okay, so my research was about assertive behavior in the classroom, and I based it on an assumption that was made in the book we read, where it says that boys seem to be more assertive than girls. So for this, I'm seeing that assertive as Craig says, having a clear, honest, and direct communication of positive and negative thoughts, feelings, and opinions, while at the same time respecting other people. Well, my assumption was that both genders are equally assertive, and the way in which I decided to measure assertiveness was by looking at interventions, interruptions, and responses. From my point of view, interventions translates the importance that they give to communicating their ideas. The interruptions, it's a lack of respect towards other students, and the responses is the way in which they communicate, like they can argue towards somebody else's idea in a correct way. This is the chart I used to measure my data, where I put boys and girls, and I went to 3 classes of English. One was of 10th graders, the other of 9th graders, and the other of 8th graders, to get like more data. Well, it's important to take into account that it's a really limited context because it's a specific school and 3 specific classrooms. But I did found things that, from my point of view, are really relevant. So this is the chart. This is how it ended up the chart. For the differences between interventions and responses in the 3 grades were not that much, they didn't show a lot of difference from the data that I collected. But there was one point that did make a change in the whole investigation. That was this number here. So what happened was that the students from 10th grade, boys, did interrupt a lot more than the girls, which didn't happen in 8th grade and 9th grade. Here the context is that the 3 classrooms have the same amount of students, girls and boys. The difference is like of 2 persons, but we will see that later on in the percentages. What I thought this could mean, the boys in 10th grade had more interruptions, was that maybe it's the hormonal changes that are here showing, because at this age you have an increase of testosterone, so maybe that makes them have a more aggressive behavior, which can result on interrupting more in class. But with the other data, we can see that they do have a same amount of interventions and interruptions and responses. So this is the percentage graph, and the 55% of the total interruptions was made by boys. So this is here where it's showing that this is the big difference in these 2 numbers here. And even though the classrooms tend to have a majority of boys, like for 2 guys, which is not that much, girls did have a little bit more responses and interventions than boys. So my conclusions from the investigation was that the increase on the interruptions with the age, it can be related to hormones. So I think it could be a good idea to take this investigation to guys that are older to see if this behavior continues. And from what I could see, the experiment accepts the hypothesis that the boys and the girls are equally assertive in this specific context, because it shows similar levels of interventions, interruptions, and responses from both genders.
Okay. You and you go up there. We're going to ask you. We have about 5 minutes to ask you questions before we proceed to the other presentations. See. All right. You're presenter. You're going to answer the questions from the audience. You can sit in worst halfway sit in your chair. Questions from the peanut gallery over here, meaning you guys.
The peanut gallery?
The peanut gallery means el público. It's a funny way to say el público.
Oh.
Something my mom says all the time.
I had a question, but I forgot.
Well, I'll start. So you guys all talked about interruptions. And interruptions in most of your studies were interpreted as something as either aggressive or dominant behavior. I want to know, do you see that there could be any other ways to interpret interruptions? Like, can somebody interrupt for another reason besides being dominant or aggressive?
I think there's something called, like, I can't remember the name, but it's like to affirm or to take the turn, but not to dominate it, but to continue with the same idea in order to give like more value to that idea.
So Natalia is saying something like, so there's this other kind of turn taking, and I say, yeah, that other kind of turn taking is called na. So in that case, I'm not interrupting you to contradict or to be dominant, but to show how do you say, agreement with your idea or excitement about your idea. So if we take interruption in those terms, I mean, you guys can think back to the observations that you did. Can you think of instances in which those kinds of interruptions happen?
Well, that's kind of what I saw as responses.
Okay.
That, what did I say? Yeah. That respecting the rights and opinions of the other person while saying your opinion about what that person said. So that's what I thought responses.
What about you guys?
Yeah, I counted as contribution.
You count it as a contribution. Okay, so not as an interruption.
No. So interruption, as I said, were those kind of responses that didn't let the discussion go further.
Okay. So it like changed the course of the
Or
discourse.
just someone who repeated what the other person just said, but louder.
Okay.
That happens a lot too. And that I count as interruption, and as a rude one also.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Andrea?
Well, I had that basically in terms of overlapping, because, like I explained, it could be used while someone is already speaking, but it's around-ish finishing his idea, and the other person jumps in, but contributes to what you already have said before, what you said before. But actually you finish what you were saying. So in a sense, yes, it is an interruption, but if it contributes to what you were saying before, I caught it like as if it was overlapping.
So we need some clarification about the terms of, these are terms used in conversational analysis, yeah? And they have pretty defined definitions. So my suggestion in extending our thinking about your research would be to like look at maybe some of what conversation analysis literature has to say about these constructs that all of you used, interruptions, overlaps, and some of you called them responses, some of you called them contributions, some of you called them interventions, yeah? So what do those things mean, or how are they understood in the literature of language studies? Yeah, I think that's an important thing to always clarify, which I thought Andrea did a good job of clarifying at the beginning, at least how she was understanding these different things with her definitions. Okay, do you guys have other questions about the main findings that they discussed in their presentations? That's your job right now.
I don't know if you analyze when someone is talking and then other person wants to talk, but the person that's talking do something with language in order to keep the tone. Like in Spanish we speak like faster when we think someone is going to do that stuff.
That I had it well in my research in terms of controlling terms. So I had for example, there was a guy that talked really loud in the English 6 class while he was interacting in his group. So basically he controlled the conversation, and if maybe someone else jumped in with an idea or something because they were discussing a project, he started to talk again and even louder. So he was actually like being the dominant in the conversation, and not only because he started talking, but he talked louder, or even started to ask questions in order to interrupt another person that was talking.
Which is funny because the whole objective of this skit was how you use these other elements like volume and stuff like that to show attitudes such as authority or dominance. Like it's one of the things we actually talked about in the course of this project, so it's ironic that you would make that observation. Definitely people who were doing that naturally in their second language, not as an acting sort of thing.
And body language as well. But it's like the girl that talked a lot in the English 3 class, the doctoral class. She talked standing up in the group interventions, or when they were trying to work together. And her body language also like gave the idea to her classmates or her peers that she was actually like managing the conversation.
Questions from you guys?
How you can see specific behavior between teacher and students in a specific case of only classmen. Yeah. So what is the dynamic with the teacher in the class where only there are men?
With the third group, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have discussed about this a lot. Yeah, so actually, as I said, the teacher's presence was important in the 3 groups, so for them to talk more. But I think especially for the last group, because as I say, they didn't really, like it took them a lot more time to compromise or to find a solution for the script than in the other groups. So the others were more focused on the homework, like I have to do this, and they did it, and they were ready. But the others were so like trying to figure out what to do and with the interruptions, and so the discussion didn't go further. So when Nicole came to us, it helped the discussion to settle what are you doing and the questions and so on. So that's for the interactions, and for the other part, so for the homophobic and sexist components of their script. So yeah, so the second class I attended, they worked on that and we discussed that with them. So was that is that the answer to your question?
I really want to know how teacher take poses in this class. Is different to only when you can find men or women, or yes, she needs to do change. She needs to change their attitude with them to reflect her power or something like that. Because
So I could only compare between our class and that class because I don't know other classes, and yeah, of course you acted differently.
I thought a funny. It happened in my investigation in the classroom of the 10th graders that were completely disrespectful. It was a male teacher, the one that they had, and in the 8th graders, they didn't have a male teacher, they had a female teacher, and they were completely respectful towards her. But here, they were disrespectful, and the teacher didn't correct them. Actually, when the girls interrupt, or where the girls did something they shouldn't do, he argued with them, and he was like, no, you cannot do that, sit down, shut up, quiet. But when it was the guys, he didn't do that. And if he did that, because he got closer to the guy's desk, the one that were talking, the guys didn't do anything. It was like, you are just like me. Like, I don't care. You're a teacher. You can do whatever you want. But with the girls, it was different. And I thought it was interesting because it's a male teacher with male students. And that was the problem with the interventions in that class, which I think is something that's really different from what we see here. Yeah.
I like that is so interesting, the performance of each teacher according with his or her context in the class. Because in case of Nicole, there are only men. She needs to take, I think that other different way to express her ideas, because maybe they can, they are competitiveness. You said something like that. So maybe they want to be better than she or something like that. I imagine that this is so difficult to the performance that we need to take being woman in the audience that is only.
But I think, sorry, I don't think gender is the only important part there. So because not every guy, so not every male student was the same towards the teacher. So there was a specific group of people that had a different way of talking to the teacher, but others were really respectful towards you. So others wouldn't make sexist comments in front of the teacher, or others wouldn't make homophobic comments in front of the teacher. So I don't know if it's only about the teacher being a female and the students being male students.
I think there are a lot of what ifs in this scenario, because it's not just being a female teacher in front of different male students, but it's also the fact that it is an English class. How do they see an English class? What if it was a engineering class or a law class with the most prestigious teacher in the university or a
Sí.
male teacher? What if it is a class that has credits for your average and not this one because it not gives you any credits for what you for your total average. So there's a lot of things that are involved in that. Not just because Nicole is a female.
I thought about that because many of us, in terms of useful language use, say something like this teacher is un peso, something like that. And I listen to that when they refers to a teacher, male teacher or something like that. But when it's a male teacher, they say something, or maybe we said something like she knows a lot about your topic, but it's not the same that when we talk about men or we talk about women in terms of profession. I don't know. I feel that this use of language reflect the difference and the power that we give a man and not the woman. It's so interesting. I try to analyze that in my classes, and I try to change something like that, because when I think about me, I say that this professor is un peso, and my other teacher is like, she's good.
Gabriela sabe.
Something like that. So I think why other people say that, and I evaluate if I say something like that or not. Yeah, because I think that with this search, the use of language is so important. But this is the I don't know, the beginning of my question. That's so interesting.
I wanna hear more, and I'm gonna put the Q&A for you guys on pause, because I think this is a discussion that can continue in a more in-depth way, about the implications of what you saw. So these were the observations, this is the data, this is the conclusion, more or less, if you can call it a conclusion, based on your small study. But so what? And I'm going to leave that question to all of you, because I think it's a question that we're going to pick up about all of your studies. So what? You did this mini exploration, you arrived to this conclusion. What implications does that have for you personally? Because I think Damaris is getting into some of the personal implications of doing this kind of research. And also, what implications might it have for the classes you observed, or the people you talked to, or the context in general? Yeah? Damaris, you're up.